we're going to think about our thoughts. And we're going to think about our childhood. We've all had one. And so let's revisit, embrace, and show kindness to ourselves as that child. And so here's the prompt that helps us in our healing process. Thinking of yourself as a child, we're going to think about your childhood. What empowering words would your adult self share with your child or about your childhood? We want you to think about this prompt because this prompt will trigger. This prompt will help you to think about your childhood and what it was like for you. And the purpose of this is so that you and I can look deeply at where things may have begun for us. We are all born with a clean slate. And somewhere, somehow, things began to happen. I'd like for you to answer if you're comfortable, if you feel safe answering. I know for some it may be difficult, but we'll get through it. And remember that I am a certified life coach, and your well-being and your wellness is important to me. I'd also like you to go to my Facebook page as I talk and teach about childhood wounds, and have a look at that as you think about these questions. How do you talk to yourself as the adult that you are to or about your childhood? How do you talk to your inner child? I'd love the feedback from you. And remember to embrace your inner child. And always remember, when you rediscover, it's empowering. May you all have inspiration, and may you all continue to be able to give yourself permission to embrace yourself as a child. I'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to get back to me, please feel free to answer here. Have a good day, everyone.
Hey, thank you for the invite. I think this is a fantastic swap. And upon hearing the question, it immediately brought on lots of perspectives that apply to my life, and particularly, like you said, witnessing and remembering what it was that my childhood consisted of. And, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I'm only speaking from my perspective, but I feel like more often than not, this question doesn't promote the natural deviation of the positive moments, right? I feel like through this process, you're going to be exposing the things that you want to offer yourself a sense of encouragement regarding. At least that was my experience. It wasn't like, you did so good and all this other stuff. It was immediately like, the reason those kids are so mean to you is because they just don't understand your perspective, and that's okay. Everybody has a different perspective, and that doesn't mean they're wrong. That just means they're a little confused, and it's best that you don't take it personally. It's best that you don't let them convince you that you are a certain way, which of course indicates bullying that I've experienced, and many of us have experienced throughout our life, but I experienced it quite a bit in my childhood. So there's lots of things like that come up. I think that's probably the biggest one that comes up immediately, initially, without much digging or diving. I'm sure if I sat in a relaxed state where I'm not actively driving like I am right now, and instead allowed myself just to feel and breathe, I think I would probably get to experience a slightly different truth or slightly different answer in that process. This is a powerful question. I'm going to re-swell it, so hopefully it reaches a couple more people, and through that we can at least give people the consideration, even if they don't wish to answer it on their own publicly here, which is completely fine. It's still great to contemplate it and then maybe journal instead. So thank you for your time, and thank you for posing this question. I really appreciate that incentive or that initiative. Have a great day.
Thank you for the invite. I listened to your prompts and I never answered because maybe I'm afraid I'm going to tear up, say something I don't want to. However, this one I'm interested in. I'm going to put myself in my inner child. And when I do that, because I've tried, I feel more sorry for my parents than me. My inner child, some would say, has a lot of trauma. I don't like to use that word. When I was 2 years old, I was given a medication that I was allergic to. And I spent the next year in the children's ward, 2 to 3. The allergic reaction to sulfur gave me something called Stevens-Johnson syndrome, and I was told I would go blind when I was an old lady. Well, I thought an old lady was 99. Turns out old lady meant 45. So it's been about 5 years. And to be technical, I have a little vision. I'm not completely blind. When I think of my inner child, I see this frizzy little hair, black glasses, the kind the old people wear, wrapped around their head, black teeth, because it took all the calcium out of me, and 2 parents taking pictures of her at Disneyland while she's posing like a model, one hand on the head, one hand on the hip, smiling. And I think, what a great childhood. And then I dig deeper and I go, why did my mom leave me with my dad? Let me make this very clear. I was so blessed to have chosen my dad is what had happened. I chose my dad at 5. He felt stable. He was a Vietnam vet. He was a sober man. I felt safe. My mom said, okay. And I think that I urged for her attention at night while I was, flipping through magazines, listening to the radio. I would often imagine my mom brushing my sister's hair and reading them stories while my dad was asleep. And it was dead quiet. And I often think, why did you let me go with a man? Because I wouldn't allow that with my daughter. I'd say babies belong with their mothers. So whereas I think I had a beautiful childhood, and I did, I also realized my mom was a human being. I was a very strong-minded little girl, very strong-willed. But I still feel sorry for her because I chose my dad. So I have this issue where I would be right on the verge of accepting who I was, and maybe just a tear for me, but then it extends to them. I have a lot of empathy for everybody. I just feel like maybe I'm in denial about my vision, or maybe I'm putting more into them. That's that my mom allowed me to stay with my wonderful dad. But I know that I wouldn't have. And I am a mother of a 30-year-old. So that's very difficult. I'm going to leave it at that. This is is what I was afraid of. I like how you started it off with music. It was pretty cool. And I love your prompts. You can probably I bet you people divulge things to you. I hope that you respond. Thank you again.
Sorry, I'm not really understanding revisiting your childhood. And I guess offering some empowering words for yourself as a child, as an adult. It's too much going on for me with this. But I was going to say this. When I was a youngster, I don't know exactly how old I was. Maybe 7, 8. I don't know how old I was. And I had taken something off of my mother's dresser. If I remember, I believe it was money that I had taken. And I remember my father, I remember there was supposed to be this big old moment where, my father, I guess he was going to, beat me because of this. But I don't remember. Remember what happened. I just remember going into their room and him having to have a conversation with me. And I remember him telling me that he didn't want me. In fact, he told me some story about that when they went to get me, that my mother was the one that wanted me. And that it almost sounded like the story was he got me to please his wife because I was an adopted child. And I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened because I would have that dream constantly. Like, there's a couple of dreams that I have. Like, I have like 3, 4 dreams that I always have for some reason. And I remember that dream. I just remember going to his room and him telling me that he didn't want me. And he made it sound as if he only went along with it for his wife. But I remember as an adult, because I had a lot of issues, because the weight was real heavy for me because I was an adopted child and I had not met my family. I didn't know, at that point, I didn't know what actually happened to my actual family for why I ended up here in these people's house. And I remember years later when I was an adult, I brought it up to my mother one night, and every time I noticed that, something was said that really hurt me to my heart, if I revisited it with them, they never remembered it, or they always, and my mother was very good on trying to make it sound as if I was like some crazy individual and, you feel like that because you was adopted, or, they never would take the position and take the responsibility for what they had done or for what they had said. And it was always like, oh, where did you come with that? And I remember she didn't believe me, and she was like, what? And I said, yeah, I remember Daddy told me, and it wasn't until later on in her years she tried to address it, and she tried to say, your father, I can't even remember what she tried to soften it for what came out of his mouth, but I remember her trying to, kind of throw it in my lap, because I remember having to come to her about something that she had said to me when I was young, and she tried to kind of dismiss it. So, I don't know what to say about revisiting my childhood, other than as an adult, I'm trying to perceive it all and make sense of it now, because I like to say it has to be a reason, because even now I'm starting to remember, as a child, for me to hear that, for me to listen to someone saying that to me when I'm already an abandoned kid, So, I have a part 2 to this concerning my father and my brothers, his kids, because their kids was really screwed up on a lot of levels. It's the one that I made it out in peace, or intact, I should say.